Let me ask you something, and don't answer it out loud. When you're alone, no phone, no noise, no people watching, do you actually believe the story you tell yourself about who you are and where you're going? Because deep down, you already know the truth, and that truth has been trying to talk to you for a long time. You tell yourself you're working on it. You tell yourself you're not ready yet. You tell yourself you got time. And every time you say it, you feel a little relief, like you dodged something. But what you really dodged was honesty. See, the most dangerous lies aren't told by enemies. They're told in your own voice, quiet, familiar, comfortable. Nobody's holding you back. Nobody stole your future. Nobody sabotaged your potential. The truth is harder than that. The truth doesn't feel good. The truth doesn't care about your feelings. The truth is you've been negotiating with your own discipline. You've been making deals with your weakness. You've been pretending that effort and intention are the same thing. And that lie, it's expensive. It costs years. It costs self-respect. It costs the version of you that could have been dangerous, focused, unstoppable. Right now, there's a version of you watching this that knows exactly what needs to be done. And there's another version of you hoping this video will motivate you enough so you don't actually have to change. That's the moment. That split second right there, that's where lives are decided. Because this isn't about motivation, it's about exposure. It's about finally turning the light on and seeing yourself clearly, without excuses, without filters, without lies. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So if you're ready to stop lying to yourself, if you're ready to hear something that won't comfort you, but will change you, then don't blink, don't scroll, don't look away. Because the truth is about to hit you hard. Self-deception is the real enemy, not the world, not people, not circumstances, not bad luck. The most dangerous fight you will ever be in is the one where you're lying to yourself and calling it survival. Because when you deceive yourself, you don't feel threatened. You feel safe. And that's exactly why it destroys you slowly. You tell yourself you're trying. You tell yourself you're doing your best. You tell yourself you'll start when things calm down, when you feel ready. When life gives you a break, those lies sound harmless, even responsible. But every one of them is a quiet decision to stay the same. You're not being attacked, you're being sedated. And comfort is a silent killer. Look at your life honestly. Not your intentions, not your plans, not what you talk about. Look at what you do every single day. That's the truth. Your actions don't lie. They expose everything. You can say you want more, but if your habits don't match that desire, then you don't really want it. You just like the idea of it. And liking the idea of greatness is the most common excuse for never becoming great. Self-deception makes weakness feel reasonable. It teaches you how to justify laziness with logic. You call procrastination strategy. You call fear being realistic. You call quitting protecting your peace. And every time you rename weakness, you make it stronger. You give it permission to live inside you. Over time, it stops feeling like a problem and starts feeling like your personality. The worst part is that self-deception doesn't scream. It whispers. It speaks in your own voice. It tells you you're different, that your situation is unique, that other people had it easier, that you'll figure it out later. And because it sounds like you trust it. You defend it. You build your identity around it. That's when it becomes lethal. You don't lose confidence overnight. You don't wake up one day feeling like a failure. It happens slowly, through thousands of small lies you tell yourself to avoid discomfort. Each time you skip the work. Each time you avoid the hard conversation. Each time you choose distraction over discipline. You don't feel the damage in the moment, but it stacks. And one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back at you. Self-deception robs you of self-respect. Not because you failed, but because you know you didn't even try. Failure with effort builds character. Failure with excuses builds shame. And shame doesn't motivate, it paralyzes. It makes you play small. It makes you lower your standards. It makes you afraid to even dream, because deep down you don't trust yourself to follow through. The truth is, nobody is coming to expose you. Life won't tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you're lying to yourself. Life just lets you continue. It lets you waste time. It lets you stay comfortable. And then one day, it shows you the bill through regret, through missed chances, through watching other people live the life you talked about, but never earned. Self-deception is the enemy because it keeps you busy without progress. You feel tired but not fulfilled. You feel stressed but not proud. You're exhausted from motion, not from growth. And that exhaustion becomes another excuse. You tell yourself you deserve rest, when in reality, you've been resting from your potential for years. The moment you stop lying to yourself is the moment real power begins. That moment hurts. It humbles you. It strips away the fake confidence and the fake stories, but it gives you something far more valuable: clarity. And with clarity comes choice. You can no longer hide, but you can finally move forward with honesty. You don't need motivation. You need truth. Brutal, uncomfortable truth. Because once you admit where you really are, you can finally decide where you're willing to go. And from that point on, every step you take is real. No excuses. No illusions. No lies. Comfort is a beautiful lie. It doesn't attack you. It doesn't threaten you. It doesn't feel dangerous. It feels warm, familiar, safe. And that's exactly why it destroys more potential than failure ever could. Comfort doesn't break you in one moment. It slowly convinces you that you don't need to become more than you are. Comfort whispers that you deserve rest before you've earned it. It tells you that you've been through enough, that today can be easy, that tomorrow will be better. It wraps laziness in soft words and calls it self-care. It teaches you how to avoid pressure while still feeling productive. And the more you listen to it, the more allergic you become to effort. Potential doesn't die from pressure. It dies from ease. It dies when there's no urgency, no hunger, no edge. Comfort removes the edge. It makes your days blend together. You stop measuring your life by growth and start measuring it by how little pain you feel. That's when ambition turns into wishful thinking. Look at what comfort really does. It makes you delay the hard work because now isn't the right time. It convinces you that consistency can wait. It tells you that you'll push harder when you feel motivated. But motivation never comes to people who live comfortably. It comes to people who are desperate enough to move. Comfort trains you to avoid discomfort at all costs, and growth is nothing but controlled discomfort. Every level requires pressure. Every upgrade demands sacrifice. But comfort doesn't want you to upgrade, it wants you to settle. It wants you to stay where you are and call it peace. And slowly, that peace turns into stagnation. The scariest part is that comfort feels earned even when it isn't. You feel tired, so you rest. But you're not tired from discipline, you're tired from distraction. You're drained from scrolling, from overthinking, from avoiding what matters. And yet comfort rewards that behavior with more avoidance. It becomes a loop you don't even realize you're trapped in. Comfort also lies about time. It tells you that you're young, that there's no rush, that you can always start later. It makes the future feel distant and forgiving. But time is ruthless. It doesn't care about your comfort. It keeps moving whether you're building or not. And one day, comfort hands you regret and tells you it was never responsible for your choices. Nothing great comes from comfort. Strength doesn't. Confidence doesn't. Discipline doesn't. Self-respect definitely doesn't. Those are forged under pressure when quitting would feel better, but you don't do it. Comfort robs you of those moments. It takes away the chances to prove something to yourself. And without those proofs, your belief in yourself starts to fade. Comfort also makes fear look intelligent. You avoid risks and call it being cautious. You stay silent and call it being mature. You don't chase what you want and call it being realistic. And slowly your world gets smaller. Not because life limited you, but because comfort convinced you to limit yourself. Look around. The most frustrated people aren't the ones who failed. They're the ones who never fully tried. They stayed comfortable long enough to watch their own potential age out. They know they could have done more. But comfort made it feel unnecessary at the time. And that awareness becomes a heavy weight to carry. Comfort doesn't prepare you for hardship, it weakens you for it. When real pressure comes, you break faster because you never trained under discomfort. You never built tolerance. You never developed resilience. Comfort left you soft in a world that eventually demands strength. If you want to become dangerous, capable, and proud of the person you're becoming, you have to betray comfort. You have to choose effort when ease is available. You have to choose discipline when comfort offers excuses. Because the truth is simple and unforgiving: comfort will never take you where your potential lives. Your actions expose the truth every time, not your words, not your plans, not your promises. Action is the final judge, and it never lies. You can say anything you want about who you are and what you want. But what you do when no one is watching is the real confession. That's the version of you that's telling the truth. People love to talk about goals. They love to describe the life they want, the discipline they're building. the future they're working toward. But talk is cheap because it costs nothing. Action costs comfort. Action costs ego. Action costs the right to make excuses. That's why most people avoid it and replace it with explanation. They explain why now isn't the right time. They explain why their situation is different. They explain why tomorrow will be better. And every explanation is another way to avoid exposure. Your actions don't care how motivated you feel. They don't care what you intended to do. They reflect what you actually value. If you say you want growth but your actions choose distraction, then distraction is your real priority. If you say you want change but your actions stay the same, then comfort is what you truly worship. That's not judgment, it's truth. Every day you vote for the person you're becoming. Not once, not when it's convenient, every single day. And most people don't like looking at the results of that vote, so they avoid the mirror. They focus on future versions of themselves instead of dealing with the current one. But the future doesn't magically arrive. You build it through repeated action. The hardest truth to accept is that you are not confused. You are not lost. You are not unlucky. You are acting in alignment with your habits. And habits are just repeated actions. That means your life makes sense. It's uncomfortable to admit, but it's empowering too. Because if your actions created your current situation, then new actions can create a different one. Actions expose discipline. They expose fear. They expose priorities. When pressure hits, your actions reveal what you really are. Not what you hoped you'd be, but what you trained yourself to be. That's why preparation matters. That's why consistency matters. Because when life tests you, it doesn't care about your intentions. It checks your habits. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your actions. That's why motivation alone fails. Motivation is emotional. Actions are behavioral. Emotions change daily. Actions compound. A small disciplined action done every day will outperform a massive burst of motivation that dies in a week. People avoid action because action removes deniability. As long as you don't fully commit, you can tell yourself you would have succeeded if you tried. That fantasy protects the ego, but it also keeps you average. Action forces you to face reality. It forces you to accept where you actually stand. And for many people, that's terrifying. But here's the truth, there is no confidence without action. You don't build belief by thinking. You build it by doing. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect grows. Every time you break one, it shrinks. Over time, that becomes your identity. Not what you say, but what you repeatedly prove. Your actions are always speaking. They speak when you wake up. They speak when you're tired. They speak when no one is watching and there's nothing to gain but integrity. And they're always honest. If you don't like what they're saying, don't argue with them, change them. The moment you align your actions with the person you claim to be, everything changes. Clarity replaces confusion. Power replaces frustration. And instead of lying to yourself, you finally start respecting yourself. Pain is the price of honesty. There is no way around it. The moment you stop lying to yourself, it starts to hurt because truth doesn't come gently. Truth strips you naked. It removes the stories, the excuses, the comfort, and the fake confidence you've been hiding behind. And when all of that disappears, you're forced to look at who you really are, not who you pretend to be. That moment is painful, but it's also powerful. Honesty means admitting that you're not where you said you'd be. It means facing the gap between your potential and your performance. That gap burns. It attacks your ego. It exposes your lack of discipline, your inconsistency, your fear of discomfort. And most people run from that pain as fast as they can. They'd rather stay comfortable in a lie than uncomfortable in the truth. But that comfort comes with a hidden cost. The pain of honesty is sharp but clean. It hurts in the moment, but it doesn't rot you from the inside. Regret, on the other hand, is dirty pain. It lingers. It grows stronger with time. It whispers at night when everything is quiet. And regret is what you pay when you avoid honesty for too long. You either choose the pain of discipline now or the pain of regret later. There is no third option. When you're honest with yourself, you stop blaming the world. You stop pointing fingers. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. And that responsibility feels heavy at first. It feels unfair. It feels like pressure. But responsibility is where your power lives. As long as you're lying, you're powerless. The moment you tell the truth, you take control. And control is uncomfortable before it becomes freeing. Pain is also the signal that growth is happening. Muscles grow through strain. Confidence grows through challenge. Character grows through resistance. Honesty forces you into that resistance. It makes you confront habits you've ignored, patterns you've justified, standards you've lowered. None of that feels good, but it's necessary. Comfort never made anyone strong. Pain did. Most people avoid honesty because it threatens their identity. They've spent years telling themselves a certain story about who they are. Honest reflection shatters that story. It shows them they're not as disciplined as they thought, not as focused, not as hungry, and instead of rebuilding, they protect the illusion. They defend the lie. They attack the truth. That's how people stay stuck for decades. But when you accept the pain of honesty, something shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses sound intelligent. You stop pretending that effort and progress are the same thing. You start doing the work even when it's uncomfortable, because you're no longer trying to feel good. You're trying to be better. Honesty also hurts because it demands change. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending. That means action is no longer optional. You either step up or live with the awareness that you didn't. And that awareness can be brutal, but it's also the birthplace of self-respect. Every time you choose honesty, you're choosing short-term pain for long-term strength. You're choosing to feel weak today so you can become strong tomorrow. You're choosing discipline over denial. And over time, that pain turns into pride. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that comes from knowing you didn't lie to yourself when it mattered. The truth hurts, but it heals. Lies comfort, but they decay. If you want real confidence, real power, real growth, you have to pay the price. And that price is paying the honest kind. You either confront yourself now or hate yourself later. There is no escape from that choice. You can delay it, ignore it, distract yourself from it, but you cannot avoid it. At some point, life will slow down, the noise will fade, and you'll be left alone with your own thoughts. That's when the truth shows up. And the longer you avoid confronting yourself, the heavier that moment becomes. Confronting yourself is uncomfortable because it requires ownership. It means admitting that some of the pain in your life isn't bad luck or betrayal or circumstance. It's the result of your own decisions. That realization, this is where it ends and where everything begins. You don't need another video. You don't need another quote. You don't need another excuse that sounds intelligent. You need a decision. Right now, you know the truth. You felt it the entire time. That tight feeling in your chest isn't motivation. It's recognition. It's the part of you that's tired of pretending, tired of negotiating, tired of living below its standards. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to push you when it gets hard. And nobody will feel the regret for you if you stay the same. This life will expose you either through discipline or through disappointment. One builds you, the other breaks you. The choice is brutal, but it's fair. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop lying about tomorrow. Stop acting like time is on your side. Look in the mirror and understand this clearly. The person you become from this moment forward is your responsibility, not your past, not your circumstances, not your fear. If you walk away from this and do nothing, that's a decision. If you take action while it's uncomfortable, that's a decision. And every decision compounds. Be honest enough to admit where you are. Be ruthless enough to do what needs to be done. Be disciplined enough to stay when it hurts. Because at the end of your life, you won't regret the pain you faced. You'll regret the strength you never built. This is your moment. Don't waste it. It's hard. It attacks your ego. It forces you to drop the victim story. And most people would rather protect their pride than face their potential. But protecting pride today creates self-hatred tomorrow. When you don't confront yourself, you start betraying yourself in small ways. You break promises, you lower standards. You accept behavior from yourself that you would never respect in others. At first, it doesn't feel serious. You tell yourself it's temporary. But every small betrayal adds up. Over time, you lose trust in yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you don't like yourself. Self-hatred doesn't come from failing. It comes from knowing you didn't try. It comes from knowing you had the ability, the time, the opportunity, and you chose comfort instead. That awareness is poison. It doesn't scream. It sits quietly and eats away at your confidence. It makes you cynical. It makes you resent people who are doing the work you avoided. It turns motivation into bitterness. Confronting yourself now means having hard conversations with the person in the mirror. It means asking questions you've been avoiding. Why am I still here? Why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why do I say I want more but settle for less? Those questions hurt because they expose responsibility. But they also point directly to the solution. Avoiding confrontation feels easier in the moment. You stay busy. You stay entertained. You stay distracted. But distraction doesn't erase reality, it delays it. And delayed reality comes back with interest. Years pass faster than you think. One day you wake up older, more tired, with fewer options, and the same unresolved issue staring back at you. That's when regret becomes loud. The people who hate themselves later are usually the ones who convinced themselves they had time. Time to grow. Time to change. Time to get serious. But time doesn't wait for readiness. It rewards urgency. Confronting yourself now gives you something time never will. A chance to course correct while it still matters. Facing yourself also builds respect. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you strengthen your character. You start trusting your word again. You start believing in your ability to handle discomfort. That belief changes how you move, how you speak, how you show up. You stop needing external validation because you know you're not lying to yourself anymore. Self-confrontation isn't about self-hate. It's about self-respect. It's about refusing to live below your capacity. It's about choosing temporary discomfort so you don't have to live with permanent disappointment. The pain of facing yourself today is nothing compared to the pain of looking back and realizing you wasted your potential. In the end, everyone confronts themselves. Some do it early and grow. Others do it late and suffer. The difference isn't talent or luck, it's courage. The courage to stop running, stand still, and face the truth while there's still time to change.